Good afternoon, children. In the previous session, we were in the lesson of Benares. So I think we shall see that the Aldous Huxley has been explained about Lord Krishna, who is there himself in Bhagavad Gita prescribed as the mystic squint there. So Lord Krishna, it is evident, knew all that there is to be known about art of self hypnotism there. His simple method has never been improved. It puts on mystical ecstasy, la porte de tous there. So the noise of an assembled million filled with the air, but no one could break the meditative sleep of the green nose gazers there. So these words are being given, and these are being given in the holy book of Bhagavad Gita, and they are the prescribed lines which are being given by this Lord Krishna. At a given moment, the eye of faith must have observed the nibblings of the demonical serpent. So now we are in the seeing or in the visualization picture of eclipses. So that eclipses, you can see that eye of faith of all us, those who are watching the eclipse, they are going to observe the nibblings of the demonical serpent. So we said already, the serpent swallowed the sun. Then, for it suddenly, simultaneously, all those were the lowest steps of gods threw themselves into the water, began to wash, a gargle, to say their prayers, blow themselves through their nose, to spit and drink. A numerous band of police abbreviated their devotions and their bath in the interest of crowds behind. The front of waiting queue was the 1,000 yards wide, but a million people are waiting. So you can see that many number of people are going to be observed the feelings and the things which are going to be observed in the demonistical way of the serpent which it does. For suddenly and simultaneously, all those on the lowest steps of the god threw themselves into the water and began to wash, gargle there, to say their prayers and blow their noses, to spit and drink. A numerous band of police abbreviated their devotions and their bath in the interest of crowds behind. The front of the waiting queue was 1,000 yards wide, but a million people were waiting. Their bathing must have gone on uninterruptedly the whole day. Time passed, the serpent went on nibbling interceptly at the sun. The Hindus counted their heads, the Hindus counted their beds and prayed, made ritual gestures, ducked under the sacred slime, drank, and were moved on by the police room for another installment of the patient million. So that patient million, we rode up and down, taking snapshots, west is west, and these are the things that have been given for the people, those who were made near the gods as the time passed. The time passed, the serpent went on nibbling imperceptibly at the sun. The Hindus counted their heads and prayed. Their rituals, gestures, ducked under the sacred slime, drank, and were moved on the police to make room for another installment of the patient million. We rode up and down, taking snapshots, west is west. In spite of the serpent, the sun was uncommonly. So, in spite of the serpent, the sun was uncommonly hot on their backs. After a couple of hours on the river, we decided that we had enough and landed. The narrow lanes that led from the gods to open streets in the center of the town were lined with beggars, more or less holy. They sat on the ground with their begging bowls before them. By the end of the day, the beggars might, with look, have accumulated square meal. We pushed our way slowly, thronged alleys from an archway. In front of us merged a sacred bull. The nearest beggar was dozing at his post. Those who eat little sleep much. The bull lowered its muzzle to the sleeping man's bowl, made a spouting movement with its black tongue, and morning's charity had gone. The beggar still dozed thoughtfully, chewing. The Hindu totem turned back the way it had come and disappeared. And you can see, in spite of the serpent, the sun was uncommonly so the sun was uncommonly hot on our backs. After a couple of hours on the river, we decided that we had enough and landed. The narrow lanes that lead from the gods to open the streets in the center of the town were lined with beggars, more or less holy. They sat on the ground with their begging bowls before them. The charitable they passed, they would throw a few grains into the rice of each of the bowls. By the end of the day, the beggars' night, with luck, have accumulated a square meal. By the end of the day, we pushed our way slowly through the thronged alleys. From an archway in front of us merged a sacred bull. The nearest beggar was dozing at his post. Those who eat a little emerging a sacred bull. The nearest beggar was dozing at his post. Those who eat little emerged a secret bull. The near was beggar was dozing at his post. Those who eat little emerged they sleep much. The bull lowered its muzzle to the sleeping man's bowl, made a coasting movement with its black tongue, and morning's charity had gone. The beggar still dozed thoughtfully, chewing. The Hindu totem turned back the way it had come and disappeared. Being stupid and having no imagination, the animals often behave more sensible than men. Efficiently and by instinct, they do the right, appropriate thing at the right moment. Efficiently by instinct, they do the right, appropriate thing at the right moment. When they are hungry, look for water. When they feel thirst, make love in the mating lesson. Mating season, rest or play when they have leisure. Men are intelligent and imaginative. They look backwards and ahead. They invent ingenious explanation of observed phenomena. They took device, elaborate and roundabout means for the achievement of remote ends, which was made them the masters of the world, that often causes to act like imbeciles. No animal, for example, is clever and imaginative enough to suppose that an eclipse is the work of a serpent devouring the sun. That is the sort of explanation that could occur only to the human mind, and only a human being would dream of making ritual gestures in the hope of influencing for his own benefit the outside world while the animal obedient to this to its instinct goes quietly about its business, man being endowed with reason and imagination that wastes of his time and energy in doing that are completely idiotic. In time, it is true experience teaches him that magic formulas and ceremonial gestures do not give him what he wants. But until experience has caught him and takes a surprisingly long time to learn. Man's behavior is in many respects far sillier than that of animal. So you can see that no animal, for example, is clever and imaginative enough to suppose an eclipse is the work of a serpent and devouring the sun. That is the sort of explanation that could occur only to the human mind. Only a human being would dream of making ritual gestures in the hope of influencing for his own benefit the outside world while the animal obedient to instinct goes quietly about its business being endowed with reason and imagination wastes of his time and energy in doing things that are completely idiotic. It's time, it is true, experience teaches him that magic formulas and ceremonial gestures do not give him what he wants. But until experience has caught him, he takes surprisingly long time to learn. Man's behavior is in many respects far sillier than that of the animal. So I reflected as I watched and sacred bull lick up the rice from the dozing beggar's bowl. While a million people undertake long journeys, suffer fatigue, hunger, and discomfort in order to perform there. In a certain stretch of very dirty water, certain antics for the benefit of a fixed star 90 million miles away, the bull goes out looking for food and fills its belly with whatever it can find. In this case, it is obvious the bull's brainlessness causes it to act much more rationally than its masters. To save the sun, you should have to see which might one feels very safely be left to look after itself. A million of Hindus will assemble on the banks of the Ganges. So you can see a bull of to save the sun, which might one feels very safely be left to look after itself. A million of Hindus will assemble on the banks of the Ganges. How many, I wonder, would assemble to save India? An immense energy which if it could be turned into political channels might liberate and transform the country is wasted on the name of imbecile superstitions. Religion is a luxury which India, in its present condition, cannot possibly afford. So you can see that to save sun, which might one feels very safety to left and to look after herself, millions of Hindus will assemble on the banks of the Ganges. How many, I wonder, would assemble to save India? An immense energy which, if could be turned into political channels, might liberate and transform the country, is wasted in the name of imbecile superstition. So, religion is a luxury which India, in its present condition, cannot possibly afford. India will never be free until the Hindus and Muslims are rapidly enthusiastic about their religion. As what all about the Church of England? If I were an Indian millionaire, I would leave all money for the endowment of an atheist mission. See here, from the last lines, you can see that to save the sun, which might feels very safety, be left to look after itself. A million of Hindus will assemble on the banks of Ganges. How many, I wonder, I would assemble to save India? An immense energy which, as it could be turned into political channel that might liberate and transform the country, is wasted in the name of imbecile superstitions. Religion is a luxury which India, in its present condition, cannot possibly afford. India will never be free until the Hindus and Muslims are tepidly enthusiastic about their religion, as we are about the Church of the England. If I were an Indian millionaire, I would leave all my money for the endowment of an atheist mission. So, if you can imagine that what will be the position of this millionaire if I were to be the Indian millionaire, I would leave all my money for the endowment of an Indian mission, he is saying. So, this is all about the Benares lesson where all the Hindus are going to reach the place and they get that if we sin once in the river Ganges, whatever the sins and the commitments that we have done will be gone through the once you dip in the water. But all millions of the people, if they are making and following of all these tradition, that slowly the water will be contaminated and it becomes a stagnant by the having of all the fascination of these rites and rituals are very seen apparently by the given explanation of these author. So once again just we shall see the thing about the author is being given there. Aldous Huxley, he was given, he was an English writer, novelist and philosopher. He was best known for novels such as Brave New World, Point, Counterpoint, Eyeless in Gaza, Ape and Essence for non-fiction books, as the doors of perception, and for his works of criticism. Huxley was considered one of the great minds of his time and was nominated for the Nobel Prize in Literature for 7 times. In the essay Benares, Huxley describes what he observes at the gods on the day of a solar eclipse. He uses this as a launchpad for his reflection on mankind's irrationality. His conclusion is that Animals, though lagging their intelligence, they often behave in more sensible ways than man, who has been endowed with reason. Huxley remarks on the irony that is the human's capacity, which has been advising of Indians of all religious persuasions to assemble to save India rather than assembling and wasting their energies over superstitions. Despite his derisive tone, Huxley's fascination for the place and the rituals is very apparent. Kusha, continue. Na, chodo. 20 minutes. Then we shall have the seeing of these glossary. Light hai konచెం vidrete. The glossary of the words are being given in these. OD, DDUS in French means to accessible to all. Abbreviated means shortened. Antic, a silly act. A stride with one leg on each stride means in each side. A stride is given with one leg on each side. Barg or barge, that one, that is a large flat bottomed a large flat bottomed boat for carrying goods and peoples on river. So you can see that is the barge means it is a large bottomed boat. So it is a kind of boat for carrying goods and people on rivers, lakes there. And bilge water what collects, so water that collects in the almost flat part of the ship's bottom there. Then cormorant, large long necked seabirds. Ecstasy, state of being carried away by the overwhelming emotion. Embarkation, the act of passengers and crew getting aboard of ship or aircraft. Endowed, provided or supplied for, equipped with. Estimate, an approximate calculation. Exiguous, scanty, insufficient. Eye of faith, from the point of view of faith, not skeptical, not skeptical. ఎంతండి? Then furlong, a unit of length equal to 660 feet. Fatigue, extreme tiredness resulting from mental or physical exertion of illness. Ghat, stairway leading down to a landing on the river. Grotesque, abnormal and ugly. Gruesome, inspiring horror. Heaving, the act of lifting something with great effort. Imbecile, a stupid person. Imperceptibly, imperceptibly, in so light or gradual a manner that it cannot be seen. Incumbent, necessary for someone as a duty or responsibility. Indispensable, essential, ingenious, showing inventiveness and skill. inquisitive, curious, in the twinkling of an eye, very quickly, ledge, narrow, horizontal, shelf affixed a wall, livery, wearing a livery, a uniform for male servants, lurching, move abruptly and steadily, major domo, head steward in great household, masonry, structure built of stone or brick, muzzle, in certain animals, the part of the head comprising the jaws and nose, nibble, take small bites of, nooch arc, nooch arc, that is the refers to the biblical story of Noah, who saved his family and the animals of the world by building an ark, a very large ship in which they survived great flood sent by God to destroy the world. Oblong, rectangle object or flat figure with unequal adjacent sides. Palanquin, a closed means of personal transportation carried on the soldiers of four bearers. Phenomenon, a plural of phenomenon that can be seen to exist or happen. Plebeian, associated with the ordinary or common people. Provisions, a stock or supply of food. Pyre, wood heaped for burning a dead body as a funeral rite. Then Sil heart, that is the picture in a solid black showing only on the outline there. Then the word slime, any thick viscous matter. Here the muddy and water on the Ganges. Smoke glass, a glass that has been retreated such that it can be used as a filter to look at bright objects without damaging one's sight. Smoldering, smoldering, burn slowly and without a flame. Squint, look at someone or something with one or eye both eyes partly closed in an attempt to see more clearly or as a reaction to the strong light. So the squint, look at someone or something with one or both eyes partly closed in an attempt to see more clearly as a reaction to the strong light. Then staves, plural of staff, a strong rod or stick. Tepidly, lacking in emotional warmth or enthusiasm, half-hearted. Then throned, filled with a great number of people crowded together. Then this totem, a natural object or animal that is believed by a particular society who have a spiritual significance and that is adopted by the society as an emblem. then trance of conscious state characterized by an absence of response to external sensations. And this trance, you can see, a off conscious state characterized by an absence of response to external sensations. Trudge, walk slowly and with heavy steps, typically because of exhaustion or harsh conditions. You can see that is the trudge there. Then unabashed, that is not embarrassed. Vulgar, associated with ordinary common people. And these are the glossary of the meanings of the difficult words which are being covered from the lesson of this Benares. So you can go through the thorough through the reading once or twice again, so that you can have the clear way of explanation with the regarding of the author's view, what he observed in the visiting of this place of the river, and not only this, the Benares also. So we shall continue in one more session of the class. Thank you.